Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where today I want to discuss the issue of +2 -2 matchmaking. As most of you know, I primarily play Cold War, but recently I have been dipping back into World War II. Playing tier 10 mostly, but I've dropped into some other tiers as well. And it wasn't until I jumped into a tier 8 game that the age-old issue rose its ugly head again. The topic of +2 -2 is an issue. It always has been, it would seem, because this is not a new discussion at all. On October 11th, 2020, I released a video titled, I don't think we need +1 -1. With hindsight, it was a deliberately controversial move on my part. My channel was, at the time, less than 1,000 subscribers, so I wanted to put something out there that would catch people's attention. That is only one side of the story, though. The other side of it is that I had a feeling Wargaming weren't going to change the matchmaker, which, to this day, is still true. At the time, I was simply trying to see the silver lining to the mushroom cloud. Returning to World War II now, I can see that that mushroom cloud is still there. The topic of +1 -1 has died down somewhat because Wargaming has said it isn't possible. They have answered those questions, they've told us why. But the underlying issue of +2 -2 is everywhere in World of Tanks console. But in one area of the game, it works without community complaint. In the other area, it rubs people the wrong way, and the community just has to put up with it. So what am I talking about here? Well, to an extent, Cold War is +2 -2. An M1 Abrams can be matched up against an M1A2 Abrams. That's +2 for the M1 and -2 for the M1A2. But why doesn't anyone talk about this? Why does no one care about this? Why is no one bothered that +2 -2 is in Cold War? But the issue of +2 -2 being in World War II, that's a conversation that has been going on for years. To answer this, I have done a little bit of research myself, so let's take a look at these tables. On the left hand side we have examples of World War II tanks, and on the right we have Cold War tanks. Each has their corresponding health pool and gun average alpha values, all of which are representative of the tanks fully upgraded. The percentage difference row shows the comparison between the two vehicles expressed as a percentage. So as an example, we'll take the top nation, the American M48 Patton, tier 10 medium, has 28% more hit points than the tier 8 Pershing, and the M48 has 38% more alpha than the Pershing. Carry this method of reading these tables over to Cold War, the M1A2 has 12% more hit points than the M1, and 10% more alpha than the M1. Now if you continue reading down, you should immediately notice a difference, and that is where the averages come in. On average, tier 10 tanks have 34% more hit points and 20% more alpha than their tier 8 counterparts. In Cold War, however, top era 3 tanks have only 13% more hit points and 3% more alpha. What this demonstrates is that +2 -2 is feasible. A complaint I have heard about Cold War is that the next tank in the line feels no different to the one before it. Personally, I would say that the only line for which that statement is true is the Russian heavy line. There's a lot of T-72s there, so yes, I will acknowledge that that line is very similar all the way up, because one T-72 isn't going to be that much different from the next T-72. They're not identical, but they are quite similar. So for that example, I would say that is true. But despite that, you know what? I don't actually care. And the reason I don't care is because playing Cold War doesn't frustrate me the same way World War II does. And that is why I play it so much. +2 -2 is there in Cold War. The challenge of being 2 tiers down is still there. The reward for doing well when you're 2 tiers down, it's still there. But the overwhelming superiority of top tier tanks, that isn't there. And that is what I care about. Wargaming have demonstrated that +2 -2 can work. So what do I suggest happens here? Well, to To solve the age-old problem that World War II has raised, and the World War II community has raised for years now, the solution is quite apparent based on this information, or this data that I've produced. The solution is to reduce the differences between tiers. By my estimation, the difference between two tiers in World War II is 34%. That means the difference between one tier is roughly 17%. In Cold War, two tiers difference is 13%, so one tier difference is 6.5%. If World War II were to change the tier differences to match Cold War, I bet you would never hear a complaint about being tier 8 in a tier 10 game ever again. You just wouldn't hear it. I almost want to say I want to guarantee it, because it's already happening in Cold War. And I think this is a little bit where... This is where the World War II community does need to take... it needs to evaluate itself in some senses, I think, because you guys don't like being a tier 8 in a tier 10. I don't like being a tier 8 in a tier 10. Recently, I've avoided playing tier 8 because I don't want to be up against tier 10s. I just think it's unfair. So you have to accept that something's going to have to change. If you don't like it, it's got to change. If it doesn't change, it's going to stay the same, obviously. So this is my recommendation. And Wargaming, if you're listening, I'd love to have a conversation with you on this topic, because a part of me really does want to enjoy World War II, but I currently find that incredibly difficult when I've been experiencing such almost perfect balance in Cold War. Yeah, I'm not going to say, I say almost, because yes, there are issues with Cold War tanks. It's not perfect, but I would say the Cold War environment is far more well balanced than the World War II environment. So yeah, Wargaming, if you're listening, I'd love to have a conversation with you on this topic and see if something could be worked out, because I think we've got, I think some of these changes could be tested, they could be tried, and I'd love to see what happens if they were implemented and they were tested or what have you, because yes, I have a lot of World War II tanks that I don't play because I just find the gaming experience to be so frustrating and unenjoyable, which I would hope Wargaming wouldn't want to hear. I'd hope Wargaming would want to hear that their game is enjoyable and that people want to play it. But as it stands right now, I don't find World War II to be enjoyable. Vision system aside, just the balancing of the tanks. I do not find the balancing of the World War II tanks enjoyable at all. Okay folks, that's about all I have for this one. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave it a like, if not a dislike. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and as always, I hope you're all keeping well, and I will see you out there.